Hi there, welcome back. Oh, excuse the state of my hands first of all. But we're going to experiment with some more Aquacast again. Why is it? There's bits of fluff everywhere. Anyway, moving on. Lot in this shot that you can see. Some lovely moulds. Now, this was the irregular shaped pot and little single stem vase and tray that we got recently from a haul. If you haven't seen that, why not check back in our playlist and have a look. I'm going to use some of these PET stickers in the shape of leaves. Absolutely loving it. Also going to try and use some of the pigments that you've seen in the background there. Well, I'd made my mind up, and just for once I followed the instructions and worked out how much Aquacast I needed to make all of these components. Also, I thought, as usual, a lot of powder going in there, as you can see, a lot of powder. Just into some water. I'd measured everything out, following all the instructions. I added a little bit more to allow for shrinkage, and I added the powder to the water this time rather than the water to the powder, and I'm just using a regular spatula stir stick there in a nice big jug just to mix it all in. I did speed this bit up. Obviously take care when you're mixing it in, make sure it's all thoroughly mixed, no lumps, until it's about the consistency of some single cream. Now, I decided to go with the green. I had 3 different coloured green pigments for EcoFlow or Aquacast. Some of them are by Resin, and the other one there is by, 2 of them are by Resin and one is by a company called Colourfun. And I've added in just one healthy sized drop into here and thought, oh, it's going to make a lot of difference. It didn't. It really didn't. And that surprised me. I mean, we went from having a beautiful, brilliant white to having a sort of off-white, if that, colour. So I thought, right, okay, need to go in with some more. So I did. I was trying to go for apple white. I don't know if you remember that when they a certain company bought out a brand or a whole range of colours called blossom white, rose white, apple white, or white with a hint of, that sort of thing. So it sort of achieved that. I mean, obviously you don't have to do that step if you don't want to. You can just go straight in with the colours, do your marbling effect, and job's the good, and pour it into your moulds. So anyway, I decided to go with this. I've then used the other Resin one. Look at how that colour is dispersing across the surface of the Aquacast. And then in with the one by Colourfun, which is a much more of an olivey green, khaki green colour. Now, I also went in with some white pigment, which is specifically for Aquacast or eco pores, basically. Made by Colourfun again. As usual, everything that is listed is in today's or used in today's video will be listed in the description box. Now, I've just used a kebab skewer there to give it a bit of a stir up and decided, that's not green enough. Definitely not. Now, when will I know to stop? I should have stopped before putting more colour in. But there we go. You never quite know how your EcoFlows are going to behave, whether it's Aquacast, Jasminite, Hydroflow, or any of your sort of more shop brand bought ones. I believe Hobbycraft do one as well. It's never quite certain of how it's going to be, but there you go, just showing you on the kebab skewer there how it looks. So straight in with this lovely, it's just called an irregular pot shaped mould with a lovely lid and a little round bubble on the top to use as the handle. Look at that, poured in there, and then I suddenly thought, Laura, you need to stop, let it go down into the handle part of the lid. Yeah. So I went ahead and poured in the base part of the pot. I do love the effects of that marbling, the way it pours. If only it actually cured in exactly the same pattern. But I will say now, I am actually quite pleased with the end result. I think in future I'll use a lot more white and a lot less of the coloured pigment. So there you go, I'm just squidging the corners and then tapping this mould. And sort of same with the other one. I do a lot more off camera, but obviously be aware of the fact that the more of that you do, particularly if you've done a marble pour, the more likely you're getting the colours to blend and they'll be more blended. If that's not the effect you want, well, yeah, maybe not so much tapping, but do be wary that it, you know, air bubbles can get trapped, and that's obviously not what you want. So as you can see, bit of a mess. Yep, it's me doing the demo, so there's going to be a bit of a mess going on, but I do love that colour. Love whites and greens. Very fresh, very summer-like, very spring-like. I hope everybody else is in the mood for changing the seasons. I know we certainly are. I'm looking forward to longer days, shorter nights, but longer so it's lighter in the evening. So here we go with this vase. Now this is a single stem vase, and I wasn't quite sure how this was going to look. But you know, this is the first time of using this, and you don't know until you try. And I suppose in a way our videos are like, well look, this is what we've got, this is what we did, this is how it turned out. You know, you can either take inspiration from it and have a go yourself, or you can come up with your own theme, whether it's the type of resin you use, whether it's an epoxy resin or an eco resin, or the colours you're going to use. Are you going to try and do a marble? Are you going to use faux foil flakes or glitter? Or are you going to put some embellishments into the resin itself, like some lovely dried pressed flowers? Now, the tray. Do you remember I said I'd weighed, measured it, followed the instructions on the manufacturer's website? Still didn't have enough. Still didn't have enough. Even with a certain amount of tapping and, agitating of the mould, there still wasn't enough. So I did make up some more and, yeah, made up too much, but never mind. Because you'll see there's a little bonus in this video of something else that I made using up all that leftover EcoFlow. But look at that beautiful marbling that's happening with the green and the white. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Would have been great for St. Patrick's Day. But there we go. Maybe even perhaps for Christmas. Oh God, that seems... I have just said Christmas, yeah, I know. Sorry about that, everybody. Let's look forward to summer. We've still got summer to look forward to first. So this is the bonus one. You may have seen me use this mould before. It's a beautiful, large peony head flower mould. If you don't know what peonies are, they're just beautiful flowers. We're lucky enough to have some in our garden. They do actually grow in our garden, which is a surprise. And they're just a very full flower, beautiful, a little bit like a cross between a poppy and a rose, I suppose I'd call them. But a little bit of a fly over here, that's everything curing. Now, when I've noticed, when I use Aquacast, I get that happen. It's like all the liquid comes up to the top, sits on the surface until it's completely cured and it dries. So this is on the demould. Now, a little bit of work to do, but look at that. See, that looks really pale when you consider how much green pigment colour went in. And this is the thing with Aquacast. It is going to dry slightly lighter than maybe what you're expecting. This is the base of this. This is this irregular pot. Look at this. Now, this obviously had a lot more white than the green. I do like it. Actually, I really do like it. But I do feel at this point they needed a little something else. So because, you know, it's me doing this demo, and if you've watched some of our videos before, you know what I'm going to do, possibly. Glitter. But this was the base of the pot mould. Now, that's very, very green. I don't know what happened here. We seem to have a lot of pigment and some of it left behind in the mould. So with this, I made sure I left it a couple of days to dry out completely. Normally you just leave it overnight, leave it 24 hours, and then you can sand it and seal it. But I left it for a good couple of days so it could thoroughly dry out. And here we go with the lid. Now, any of these little overpour bits I have kept, and I have broken up down a bit further, and I've put it in my little bag of Aquacast chippings so that I can use them in a terrazzo project a bit later on. So here we have it. I was a little bit worried about the lid. I wasn't sure if it got into all of those corners. I needn't have worried because it was absolutely fine. There is some sanding that needs to be done, and I've got the sanding of these and the sealing of these pieces on time lapse. So that's coming up very, very soon. But look at that pot. I mean, that is lovely. As I said, you could just stop here, sand it, seal it, or let it dry out, sand it, seal it, and there you go, you've got a beautiful set. But I wanted to just elevate it a little bit, put our little signature sort of mark on it, if you know what I mean. But look at that. Now that is the peony mould. Now obviously it was in a different colour. It would look more like a flower perhaps. At the moment, to me, that looks like a cabbage. But, you know, I love it. I absolutely love it. So obviously this is on a time lapse. So this took me about a good 15 minutes or so to actually sand all these pieces to where I was happy with them. And I'm just, all I'm using is emery board or nail files to do this. You can use wet and dry fine grade sandpaper if you want to. Totally up to you if that's what you want to do. Now the sealant I used on this set, I believe was the J. Diction gloss sealer. And, you know, you can apply it with a sponge or you can use a brush, totally up to you. I did do 2 coats of it as well. So excuse the state of my hands in this particular shot. I've been doing some other sanding of another project, which is going to be after this one. It's going to be the next video later on in the week. But look at that. Now that's that feather. Now this feather is lovely. Before you peel off the backing, so it's super duper sticky now, make sure that you're happy with its positioning, because you'll be lucky if you get a couple of goes at placing this. They are very, very sticky, these PET stickers. Stickers. I suppose the clue's in the name there, really, isn't it? But yeah, I wasn't quite happy first off, so I just realigned it slightly. There we are. Do make sure that you smooth these down thoroughly so you get rid of any possible air bubbles that might have become trapped. But look at that. It looks gorgeous. Well, obviously, because we've now put something on the surface of this, we need to seal it in. And I mean, what we've decided to do is actually pour a very thin layer of resin over it. And you'll see Wayne do that for me just a moment. So look at that, lovely. Looks lovely with the vase. Also looks lovely with this peony flower. But to me, they just needed a little something else. Just a little something else. So here we go. That's the resin. This is in a bit of a close-up. Apologies for that. It's Tea Expert resin that he's used, 1-to-1 mixing ratio. And it's good resin. I think he used a 4-hour cure on this one, but I mean, you can use just their regular resin. You don't have to use a 4-hour. Make sure it's completely clear before you pour it on so you don't get any little bubbles on the surface. Now, as you can see, he's poured it down the middle and then slightly tilted it away from him to encourage the resin to just travel down to the edges of the trinket tray. There we go. And then back the other way. This is just making sure that you don't get too deeper a coverage because this isn't a very deep tray, and obviously you don't want to go to all your hard work and then find that actually you can't put anything on it without it sliding off. There we go. So just making sure, hopefully you can see that in the shot there, and the top of the shot there, it's just going down, meeting the sides of the tray, filling in all the little gaps. He did also spritz this with some isopropyl alcohol to get rid of any little bubbles, and then we did babysit it for about a 15-20 minute window where we were just making sure that any little bubbles that came up to the surface or appeared were then got rid of, and also went round the edge of the tray there on the inside with a micro brush just to make sure that there were no little bubbles or little very fine pinprick bubbles lodged against the sides. Look at that. So, and the thinnest of coats of resin there. And it's just really to encapsulate in the PET feather sticker. There we are. Almost done. looking good. It looks really good. I mean, I really like these feathers. I mean, there'll be all kinds of other things that you could do, and you could use them for in trays. I can imagine it in a tray. Maybe also with some real feathers. They would look stunning. Or if you've got some semi-precious gemstone chips, perhaps, you could put those around the edges of this tray. I put it on the inside, but just around the edges, perhaps. If you've got them in clear quartz, or if you've got them in if you've got any green aventurine ones, if you know what I'm talking about, or just some, regard to semi-precious crystals and gemstones, the aventurine would look absolutely stunning against this. So with some agate, if you've got some agate chips, or some labradorite, some people call it, those, oh my gosh, moonstone. I mean, you could go on and on, really. But that's looking really, really good. So just checking that we've got enough coverage, there's enough resin, that we've got as many bubbles out as possible. Now, we left that to cure. Now, that was left to cure for a good 24 hours. Now, whilst Wayne was doing that, I decided to bling up everything else because, I can't leave it alone, can I? Got to have a bit of glitter. Now, these have all been sanded and sealed with 2 coats of the sealant. I used some UV resin, of which I've poured some into this little plastic container. I've got a silicone tipped tool there, and just mixing in a little bit of that white iridescent glitter into it, just to give it a little something, because I noticed when we demolded these pieces there were some very fine holes, or pinprick holes, and I was just wondering what on earth could we do to just help them along a little bit. Can you see there? I don't know why this has happened, but it did, and it is what it is, I suppose. But I just wanted to zhuzh it up a bit, if you know what I mean. So applied rather a lot, in fact too much resin, of the UV resin to the underside of the lid. This is the underside of the lid of the pot. Now, if this was just going to be for us, I wouldn't have bothered. But it's not. So I felt it did need a little bit of help along the way. So just trying to get the UV resin there, mixed with that lovely iridescent white glitter, into all of those little pinholes that had appeared in the Aquacast. Just as a little something, like it's intentional. Almost as if you were looking at perhaps some lovely green marble or onyx or agate, and they've got all these lovely little natural imperfections that are in them. They're beauty. Let's call them beauty marks. That's much nicer, beauty marks. But yeah, as you can see there, I'm just removing some of the excess. Just scraping it off with a silicone tip brush there. And then what I'm going to do as well is just go in a bit more with just a popsicle stick just on its side, and then just rubbing it through and round with my finger as well. There we go. So it's looking very glossy. And just a warning, I will be using a UV lamp any moment. So if you're a little bit sensitive to those, then please just fast forward a little bit. There we go. And all I'm doing there is I've noticed there is some glitter on the table, so I'm just getting it off with putting it on my finger and then putting it on the piece itself. There we are. Not sure if you can see the difference that's making, but trust me, it was. So I've got some more there. I've actually got it out of the potted glitter. Just putting it on. And where it is white holographic or white iridescent glitter, it almost takes on, it doesn't really stay white. It takes on the colour of the piece itself. Can you see that? So it looks there like I've put like a greenish gold coloured glitter on it. To me it does anyway. hopefully you can see that a little bit there on the left hand side of it. Yeah, so there we go, in with the UV torch, just a little bit to set this piece up. And then with all of these pieces, I did also put them under a UV lamp for 5 minutes. So they were all fully cured. Now there's time lapse coming up of me showing you how I did all of the others as well. So that's coming up any moment now. There we go. There we are. So this is me. This is the time lapse. So this is the base. This one was very, very dark green. Quite a contrast to the others. But if anything, I thought that that really did need it. Now this is the beautiful peony flower, or what I think looks like a very ornate cabbage. Have you seen the cabbage plants that you can actually get for your garden? I don't think those are edible, but there we go. So here's a close-up. Look at that glitter just sparkling away, twinkling away there. Now this looks almost like a pale blue, but I think that's just the lighting that we have currently. But I absolutely love it. See, you can still see the gorgeous marbling that's going on with all those lovely pigments. And here we are again. This is a bit more in focus this time. That beautiful peony flower, or cabbage we're going to call it. And the tray with the feather and the lovely irregular shaped pot and the single stem vase. Now this would look lovely anywhere in your home. I hope you've enjoyed this video and some more experiments where I'm using Aquacast and pigments and things. Got another one coming up in a couple of days time. So don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe and the notification bell so that you're aware of when that one's happening. Take care everybody. Bye bye.